Hi, I just want to share with you one of my favourite tools, the business model canvas. There's nothing to be scared about in using the business model canvas. It's really just a one-page framework for a conversation with your clients. And here it is. Now there's a couple of ways you can approach this. You can use it as a whole of business, or you can actually use it at a divisional level. You can use it as a current state, so you could map the current state of the business model for the organisation, and or you could do a future state canvas, or sometimes you can even combine it on the one canvas and maybe use different colours for the current and future. So I'll just step you through the elements of it, and I'll describe the sort of conversations I have with my clients as we go through it. So the first element is the customer segment. So what you want to consider is how you would segment your customers. So if it's a B2C business, so if we're segmenting consumers, it might be sex, it might be socio-demographic. We might, if we're talking about B2B, we might use geography, we might use industry sector. It's whatever is appropriate for your client. Now, in dealing with, say, not-for-profits or governments or other types of organisations, I also, in this part of it, think about stakeholders. So if we're dealing with a school, we might say the customer is the student, stakeholder, parents, and maybe community. So it really depends on the situation. There's no prescribed rules for this. You've just got to use sort of common sense to deal with whatever the situation is of your client. I often then jump to the middle segment, which is value. Now, value is in the middle because, of course, without a value exchange, we've got nothing. So you really need to think, what is the value that is offered by your client? And a lot of people confuse features with benefits and get really muddled up about what the value proposition is. So, for example, if I was a professional firm and I provided tax advice, really the tax advice is the product, that's not really the value. The value proposition might be legal compliance and peace of mind. So make sure you really hone in on the value, not just the product or the feature. In this box, we consider the relationship strategy. So that's how we actually relate to the customer. So that could be deeply personal. If we're talking about a private bank, that would be one-to-one, individual to individual, which is really quite an expensive relationship strategy. Or if we had a pure web business, we could automate the way we relate to the customers, and that's, of course, a lower cost strategy. Or it might be some combination. Again, we've got to think through what's appropriate. The channels are our channels to market. So how do customers find out about us? How do we transact with customers? How do we deliver the product? So for many professional firms, it's a direct channel, but in that box, I might think about referral networks. So maybe not a delivery channel, but maybe a channel through which customers find us. But if we were, say, a manufacturer, we might have multiple channels in there. We might have wholesale, we might deal direct. So if I was, let's say I was a small winery, I might be dealing through a distribution network who then on-sell to retailers. I might sell to some retailers direct, and I've probably got a cellar door where I'm selling directly to my own customer list. In each case, you'll have different margins and different issues. So just framing up a conversation around that triggers lots of thinking. Over here, we want to consider what activities do we actually do within the business. So an activity, it could be finding customers, sales, building new products, all the things that we have to do within the business. Resources, what resources do we need? So we might need plant equipment, we might need buildings, we're nearly always going to need people. So just framing up what resources are needed. And you don't actually need to come up with a shopping list. You don't need to come up with every single thing. I often try and get, what are the key resources? Because you don't want to clutter the page with sort of useless information. Here's who are our partners. Now, this is a big box because partnering strategies are a fundamental part of an agile organisation. So, right, if we went back 20 years ago, we would be employing everybody, but now, if we want a more agile organisation, we will, use more outsourcing, and we'll have sort of partners. That doesn't mean every supplier is a partner. A partner's got a deeper relationship than just a mere supplier. This box is for revenues. So I really like to think about our revenue structure. So if we're a product business, do we sell on a unit-based revenue item? So $17 per product, a unit product, or if we're a professional services firm, the sort of typical revenue model has been per hour. Now that's really, then this is one of my favourite boxes because it really provides opportunity for innovation. So in a professional services firm, I start to get them thinking about how they could have a product arrangement and sell units rather than hours. If they're a manufacturer, I get them thinking about how they could come up with service revenues from products. So, and we then start thinking about is the revenue structure periodic, so one-off or project-based, or is it recurring? There's a lot of opportunity in thinking about the structure of the revenue. It's one of my favourite parts, and it's a really key part of adding value to this conversation. And then the cost structures. So again, we need to think about whether the cost structures are fixed or whether they're variable. And of course, making the cost structures more variable, what we want to do is line the revenues up with the costs. So if our revenues are variable, we really want to get the costs variable as well. The last thing you want is revenues that are maybe seasonal and your costs are fixed right throughout the year. That creates a really bad business model. So there you have it. That's basically the idea, and it's nothing more than a framework for conversation. You can do it at an organisational level, or you can do it at a divisional level. And I really don't think you can go wrong by just using this structure for an informed conversation with your client. Good luck.